Good afternoon, everyone. I invite to the stage our dear panelist, Nimrod Amir, VP of Security Innovation at Edgar, Dunn & Company, Marius Anastasiou, Senior Account Manager at Google, EMEA, Sherine Kabesh, co-founder at Flash. Welcome. Dimitris Litsikakis, Corporate Development Director at Profile Software, and Monica Ioannidou Polemitis, partner at TKI Together. Good afternoon, everyone, one more time. I'm Marina Shartdinova, the banking lead at Payable, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to panel 4, Fintech meet AI, Disruption or Evolution. AI is rapidly moving from experimentation to the core of financial services, shaping risk, operation, fraud prevention, and customer experience. Today, we will explore what AI is truly delivering, where the gaps remains, how regulation, security, and human judgment fit into new landscape. Let's discuss if AI is driving real disruption or accelerating existing players, how different types of organizations approach AI, and what leaders should prioritize when investing in AI in 2026. So let's move to the most interesting part of our questions. Current impact. There is AI delivering tangible, measurable results today in financial services, and there is a gap between promise and real-world outcomes, still the largest. Shall I repeat the question? Monica, since you...
Well, I can start since I'm from Egypt. Hi, everyone. Thank you. So nice being in Cyprus. First of all, thank you for having me. Just very quickly, I'm Sherine. I lead a startup in Egypt. It's Fintech. AI is a very interesting topic recently in Egypt because it's a very highly regulated country, very highly. I'm not sure if anyone have dealt with the Central Bank of Egypt, but we're extremely regulated. And I would say one of the main things of reality versus what we wish would be a possibility is the regulatory part. AI is booming. It becomes like with numbers in other industries other than fintech, because in fintech you have to go through a central bank that still doesn't approve any company to use anything other than local servers, for example. So it still becomes, and you need to integrate with the very old banking protocols and technology for AI to work. So I think it's a very interesting phase we're in Egypt. Moving on to my fellow friends.
Yeah, sorry. So I think that because I was listening to the previous panel as well, what we are seeing, especially in financial services, is that AI is delivering to the defensive layer of business. So it's very good at risk management, fraud, identification, but what it's missing still is the last layer, is the last mile of implementation, which is the customer-facing applications. And usually, fintechs or traditional financial services companies have a wealth of data into their systems, which can reveal a lot about their customers, segment them, reveal patterns, insights, do predictive analytics. We have a very powerful tool when it comes to artificial intelligence. However, it's not being used to the extent that it can yet, most probably because the data of such customers is still locked or trapped, I would say, in traditional legacy systems, which makes it very hard to integrate between them and reveal those insights. So unless we fix the plumbing in such organizations, in such companies, it would be very difficult to reveal those insights. It's like having a Ferrari engine inside a Suzuki, I would say.
Thank you very much. Governance and responsible AI. Fintech often rely on external AI models and data partners. How do you balance innovation with explainability, compliance, and model transparency, particularly in the regulated markets?
So Gen AI, generative AI, is probabilistic. And the issue with that in fintech is that fintech or financial services in its nature is deterministic. It's either black or white. Money is math. So combining these two elements is very tricky, which means that if we want to do the combination properly, we need to build a hybrid architecture in order to separate the reasoning layer from the decision-making layer. The reasoning layer can depend on generative AI. We can unleash it into data, external, internal, get insights and results, but the layer of decision-making should be separate in order for us to be able to explain it. And we can only separate if it's in code and if it's a human. Still, we need a human, as the previous panel said, a human in that loop in order to be able to make the final decision that makes sense. And going back to the dependency issue on third-party tools, the issue there is that right now we are outsourcing we are renting, basically, the technology capability from 2 or 3 or 4 large companies that are not even based in the EU, which means that if these companies break or if these companies decide to change their decision-making model, we are stuck. And you are in financial services, so you know about the DORA regulation. You understand, and I'm not in financial services, I'm in tech, but that regulation has a very strong component on reliance on ICT services and companies. So outsourcing or renting this capability is risky, and it's something to have in mind when we are developing models to unleash in these companies.
Just comment on that. Just taking a step back. I think before we even decide what's to be outsourced or what is to be done internally, I think we have to really understand where can we make improvements of our business as it stands now. And AI can actually help in making your business, the most basic things, more effective. So for example, you talk about customer facing. If you look at customer services, right? A lot of us have experience in talking to these bots, even whenever. They don't tell you anything. You just come back to the question that you asked in the first place. So that's the first place where AI will help us. You're looking at the problems that customers have encountered and how they have been resolved, using that database to solve those problems more quickly. And think of it, when people say in peak times, we don't have enough customer service agents. With AI, you could potentially have an unlimited number of customer service agents because you can add more and give more relevant advice. So that's where basic things can be done properly. And then there's a whole new world of new products and services where we could sit there for hours and discuss in different types of fintech, from wealth management to payments, from insurance to all sorts of other things, that new things can be. So I was just going to say that there are two things that we need to look at, the basic stuff and then the future stuff.
I think I can add a bit to this and bring a bit of relevancy to where we stand in Egypt. I think it's so nice being in a country that's very advanced when it comes to having these two types of where we are, even with customer support. I think we're at a phase where we're looking at fraud and AML, which becomes our biggest issue in Egypt as it stands for all fintechs. I would say this for all fintechs that we have. And once we have, and I loved what you said, that this is like the basic that everyone already has. And I think this is what we're currently building in Egypt, because once we get to that phase, you can build a lot of products knowing that you have something that is lower in risk versus what you have. You can lend, you can give a better credit scoring, and so on, and you can build a gazillion products if you have a proper risk analysis. So it decreases the false positives, which is currently, I would say, our biggest issue in Flash, at least. Yeah.
Thank you, Sherine. Monica, I would like to continue the idea of Samee. Has been mentioned how the fintechs today, we are using AI and what kind of services we are covering by. Recently, we have been launched AI policy in the payable, which give us governance and clear instructions how to use it. We do cooperate with external partners for fraud prevention. And of course, we have AI chat on our website, which help to direct the clients with their primary request and so on. So basically, we are working like the partners with AI. We use their services, but the final decision and the expertise are provided by the humans and by our experience. AI business challenges. As fintech organizing grow and automate more of the AI services, what do you think become the most critical business challenge they need to address to stay protected?
Yeah, I can answer that. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for hosting me on this great event. My name is Nimrod Amir, and I'm a VP Security at Integrity Software. We are a partner, global partner with Okta. So to answer your question, in my experience, I've learned that AI is accelerating innovation, but it also accelerating risk and threats. Now, the only thing that's standing between legitimate financial action and an AI fraud attempt is identity. If you don't control identity, the AI will work long before it works for us. Now, for those of you who haven't heard about Okta, Okta is an identity and access management company, and together with Auth0, it provides an holistic solution for customers, not only for the fintech market, but also to some other fields.
Thank you, Nimrod.
Can I add something on that? And thank you, that's quite enlightening. I would also go one step back, as Samee did before. I think data architecture is the key here, because without proper data governed, as you said before, and structured, AI cannot make sense of anything, unfortunately. And this is actually the discussion that we keep having with clients, and the major pushback is that they want AI. Everybody wants AI yesterday. But unfortunately, we have to go 5 steps back and fix the data, the plumbing, as I referred to it before, because if you don't have that, you will not have artificial intelligence, you will have artificial stupidity in the company, full of risk, full of red flags, threat. So this is, I would say, if it's one thing that companies will understand that they will need to invest in 2026, it will be the data architecture. And by data architecture, for me, in my company, it's I would say the holy grail is a data lakehouse, which centralizes data in a repository, integrates it, and then you do anything you want with it on top. It's AI, it's advanced analytics, but you have to have that proper basis first.
Yeah, I totally agree with Monica. The thing is that the AI is changing the game, and you can't stop the technology, you can't stop AI, and you need to deal with the risk, and you need to be smarter than that, as I mentioned before. So,
thank you very much. Human capital and expertise. As AI begins to take on more judgment-based tasks, what roles will remain uniquely human? What will the fintech workforce look like in the next 3 to 5 years?
Maybe I can take this. Hi, everyone. I am Marios. I have been working at Google for the last 6 years, collaborating with fintech and gambling companies to help them with the user acquisition activities. Now, to the question, I believe that the first area that AI is replacing humans is already happening, by the way, are jobs that have to do with repeated tasks, like data entry, customer support for at least basic requests, fraud detection, again, up to a specific level of sophistication. These are already tasks that are being done from AI in most big companies. Now, the next phase, in the next 5 years or so, I believe that jobs that require creativity will actually be replaced from AI. Jobs like that require, for example, coming up with video concepts. There are already some companies that are specializing on that, on using AI to find what is the next viral video that will happen. Or, for example, music production, designers, all these jobs eventually will, I believe, will be replaced from AI. AI is still not at the stage to fully replace creativity, but if you think of what creativity is, it's being inspired from different things that already happened to create something new, and AI can easily do that in the future. I believe that the area that AI will never be able to fully replace humans are areas where human connection, human interaction, and human communication is important. Like, for example, sales, customer service, entertainment, education. And I believe that humans will always have to be there in these kind of positions because simply humans connect with other humans in a way that it's not possible with machines. But AI evolves in a very fast and strange way, so you never know what will happen in the future.
Just add a comment there. That I think it may not, eliminate human involvement at all, but it's an obvious thing to say is that it'll make us more efficient. So, for example, a wealth manager, or if I'm an asset allocation manager, I actually look after the financial assets of my clients. Now, I will be able to do the work of 10 asset allocators of 5 years ago, because I already have all that basic homework done for me. I will have on my fingertips which are the assets that I need to convert the current position to. Should I keep how much should I keep in cash? Look at the volatility of the markets. Is it time to keep more in cash, or is it time to put in treasuries? Is it time to put in more risky assets? So that risk allocation is going to become far easier for me. And therefore, I'll be able to work for 10 clients where I could only work for 2 clients before during the same time. And I think that's and they always say that, things, when there is innovation, it's not like innovation takes away jobs. It actually, if it takes away jobs, it creates new jobs. And some of the jobs we didn't even know could have been there before, So I think this whole thing about AI taking away jobs is just overblown, because I think we just may enter into another era of jobs, of newer jobs.
I love what you're saying, because if someone told me when I was younger there's going to be like a job role of a social media manager, for example, I would have asked, what is this? What is social media? So it's definitely true that for every era and for every type of technology, it does open up very new job descriptions. It might make other jobs obsolete. And I love what you're saying on efficiency, because that's exactly it. Like things, instead of having like 10 people, do it just one. And it opens up like a very different set of, I love that.
But at the same time, I think this is a topic that is very close to me, because I think that whatever we do as a technology company has impacts on lives, right? So I'm always mindful of that. We are assuming that the jobs lost and the jobs created will refer to the same segment of people. Unfortunately, this is not the case. The jobs that will be lost probably by a generation that is now in their 50s or 55-year-old.
My kids. This is what I tell my kids all the time. You need to learn AI and generative AI, because you're not going to do what I'm doing and everybody else.
Absolutely. No, there's no way.
But then again, you can't stop the technology. You can't stop everything. You need to forward with that and learn that, and maybe, to adapt that. That's what I believe.
We are assuming, though, that everybody has the ability to be retrained or upskilled or reskilled.
Exactly.
There is a huge segment of people that will not be able to do that, and maybe a big chunk of the population will be affected in a way that cannot be, let's say, replaced by the new jobs created, because the new jobs created, social media manager, who in their 60s will become a social media manager. Let's say I'm just taking an example. So there is a question mark there, but the good news for me is that human capability and wealth of experience cannot be replaced. So I'm hoping that the 55-year-olds will have this wealth of experience that cannot be utilized in a technology environment, but we can utilize it in a way to share knowledge to the younger generation. And by the way, AI is great at 90% of the repetitive tasks. So humans can focus on that 10% that requires human judgment and empathy and expertise that cannot be replaced by the machines.
And if I can comment on this also, like, AI is definitely a game changer, but it's not the only job that there is for every single person. So even people that are in their 50s or their 60s, like, there's also this trend, I don't know if it's in other countries, but at least for Egypt, when it goes to traditional types of businesses, when it comes to actual production, when it comes to increasing local products. So there's also a different subset of jobs that would be created for others. And for AI, it's I'm a non-tech person, but I lead a tech company. So you also don't need to know, and I think that's also relevant to you. So you don't even need to understand a lot about AI. So to me, it's ChatGPT. I'm sure there's much more than that.
Actually, there is a new role that it's called like a prompt engineer, because you need to know how to ask the correct question. Exactly. So if you ask a question and I will ask a question, because I'm a tech guy, maybe I will get a better answer. So,
or a different answer.
A different answer, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think there will be certain skills that will become obsolete. There's nothing we can do about it. My father used to say to me that in the 60s, before the calculators arrived, in his office there used to be people called the comptomists. There used to be a machine called the comptometer. And there were professional guys who would be there to calculate for you. So my dad would be filling up in a table. There was no Excel. There was no spreadsheet there. The guy would, he would tell you, this is the total for this. And then the calculators came. This Casio calculator my father bought, and he said, "Okay, let's compare." So my father could do it quicker than him. So his job was gone. So, I have sympathy with him, but there's nothing we can do about it, So he had to retrain. I agree with you. If the guy was older, he may not have been able to retrain, but that's inevitability. That is something that's going to happen. That's the price for innovation.
But when I, because I started my career at Deloitte many years ago, and I'm showing my age here, but when I started, a big part of the work of the auditors was to do computations with the calculator. So it was the next step. And now this task is really obsolete. It doesn't exist.
Things have been changed, yeah, definitely.
But do you know when the Manhattan Project, when they made the atomic bomb, they actually had to do lots of calculations, right? But they didn't have calculators. So it was like an assembly line. So there were like 50 parts of a formula. So one guy would do one formula, part of the formula, would give the result to the guy sitting behind him or her. He would do the calculation, pass it on, and at the end, the formula would be calculated. And that's something what a spreadsheet can do now,
In a second, by the way.
In a second, yeah, exactly.
Just to the last bit on that, I believe that not even the head of AI, like Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO, know exactly how this will unfold. But I believe the only sure thing is that the skill we need to train the younger generation is adjustability, because always things will be changing. So you have to learn how to learn fast. I believe this is the number one skill of this century.
We're coming to the very interesting points, and all of the panels are involved. I really enjoy it. I can say, few weeks ago, I was attending Web Summit in Portugal, and I was talking to hundreds of the people around the world from different companies, and half of the companies will say we are from AI, and second half from the blockchain. It's been young, enthusiastic boys and girls, and some of them even unicorns. So it's given huge opportunities to these startups and the medium-sized projects to develop because it supports them on the marketing, promotion, or finding some legal information. This is very, very interesting. Okay, let's go back to our discussion. Fintech companies design AI strategy. With AI rapidly entering core financial operations, what shifts do you see influencing how fintech companies decide their overall security strategy?
Well, it's important to understand that fintech companies are being attacked each and every day, and they are being targeted. And the reason for that is because the high volume of transactions, automations, speed, etc. Since AI creates a perfect identity in seconds, the question is not how fintech companies uses AI, but how fintech companies protect themselves from AI. With Okta AI, for instance, with ITP, which is Identity Threat Protection, you can mitigate the risk and protect your company and your customers, and NHI, which is non-human identities and so on, so to speak.
Thank you, Nimrod. Disruption or evolution? Is AI a true disruptor that rewires the financial services landscape or an evolution that strengthens existing players? What will separate the organizations that lead from those that fall behind?
I can take that. So what I think about this is what starts as a disruption. If you look at it from a broader perspective, it's actually an evolution as it proceeds. So if we think about money, for example, how it started like barter, and then when if you had asked a person that was at this era, you'll be trading in gold, they would think you're crazy, and then paper money, they think you're crazier, and then you'd say no need for any money, you just need some coding, and then you'd think it's also crazy. So if you think of it, everyone calls it today, it's the evolution of money, but if you stand at a specific point in time, I'm sure everyone would say this is a disruption. So I think disruption is a part of evolution altogether. Same thing with ATMs. So I used to run around in every country I go to not having like a card, and if I run out of the dollars that I have from my country, then I'm done. Now I don't need any of that. I just need a charged phone. So I think disruption is a phase within evolution altogether.
I think controversially, maybe, AI might be in favor of the incumbents, of the bigger companies, as opposed to the startups, the smaller fintechs, I mean. I'm thinking bigger banks, bigger insurance companies, and the only reason I'm thinking this is because of the wealth of data they have. Who else has 50 years worth of data into their systems? Customer data, vendor data, transaction data, they have everything. So if, and that's a big if, they manage to get that data out of their systems and properly take advantage of it by integrating it, by normalizing it, by, I'm in favor, again, of putting it into a central repository in order to create AI applications on top of that, they would be winners in this huge disruption, as opposed to other disruptions that helped startups and more agile companies more. But it's a big if, because these companies are very, very inelastic and very hard to move and very hard to identify what needs to be done, sign off let's say the agreement in order to do stuff. So I'm thinking that if somebody manages to fix the plumbing, again, going back to my metaphor, they would be winners in this in this paradigm shift.
Sorry.
One comment from my side. Totally agree with Monica. I think everything boils down on this, actually, on the data measurement and data infrastructure. Because of the way that AI works, how does it work? Takes data and it gives an output. So it all depends on how much volume of data you have, but you also need to have quality data, because sheet in, sheet out. So you need to have both of these angles right, both volume and quality. But also the other thing that is really important in this race, let's say, is the bureaucracy within the corporations, because AI moves extremely fast. So the disadvantage of the big corporations is that there are a lot of approvals that need to be taken in order to go to the next step in an AI project. On the contrary, when it comes to a small, especially startup company, there is no process. You can just move on to the next stage on the same day. So I think this is another component, another factor in this success equation of who will be able to move faster.
Let's have a look to AI from the regional angle. Does AI level the playing field for smaller fintech hubs such as Cyprus, or does it widen the gap between global players and local innovators?
Do you mean whether it will create a level playing ground? And I mean, you can look at it both ways, right? So I agree with you that the big guys will have a bigger weapon in their hands because they got data from years. So they will have an advantage. But I do think that the smaller guys will have something to outwit the bigger guy, because you will have an engine, you will have a technology, and using public data where you can, you will probably be able to do or solve things perhaps quicker than the big guys. We all know big guys, it's difficult for them to change, right? So you have systems, you have processes, you have infrastructure that is very, very difficult to change. So they may have more loads and loads of data, but they're not as nimble as the small guys. And so if new technology in the hands of smaller fintechs could actually act as a very potent weapon for them to actually disrupt the business of the big guys.
There are examples from some big players of the market like Wise or Revolut. I mean, I have heard plenty of stories from existing customers when one out-of-standard transaction has been placed, and without much deep investigation, they prefer to determine the relationship. So not going deeper like small or medium-sized fintechs. They just prefer to terminate and move forward to the next clients. So here's the gap for the customer support in this area. Let's discuss AI usage in Egypt. Can AI help Egypt fintech ecosystem move from financial access to the true financial empowerment? And what must change in data and regulation for that to happen?
I put many lines under, I think, the word regulation. So if we look at the investment that went into AI, so in 2024, it was only $10 million. Us as a fintech, we raised $6 million as a seed stage round. So I think that puts perspective on where we were back then. But the assumptions of closing of 2025, this number has jumped to $100 million. So I think the growing tenfold shows a lot about the country and how it's really changing in Egypt. But regulations, as Samee was saying, it's the big corporations like the banks and the central bank, there's a very high cost of infrastructure, which you need to integrate with. You need to take all of this data, which I'm not sure how the architecture of the data, back to your point, how was it done over these past years? So it doesn't mean that there is the data, that it's done in a way that can be used in an efficient way. So there is a very high cost of infrastructure. The central bank needs to be a bit more loose, I would say, maybe with the regulation. Like we still don't have any digital coin. You just used Revolut as an example. We don't have a digital bank in Egypt. We just got a license for the first digital bank to launch in 2026 in Egypt. We just launched InstaPay in Egypt, which is for peer-to-peer transactions. We never had any of that. And it started 2 years ago with 500,000 users. Today we have 16 million users on InstaPay, which is a growth of just 2 years. So in numbers, it shows the amount of growth when it comes to, I would say, digitization and also using AI, and how the central bank has shifted from being only banking-led and using the old ways versus the advancement, the major advancement that we had, that we've been having over the past few years, which is including fintechs, where it becomes like a very important arm to banks. And it made a lot of people, like I'm ex-Uber, I was one of the launching team of Uber in Egypt back in the days. So it made all people that work in tech and new generations and Gen Z and a lot of people move towards that industry.
Just to add, we've done a lot of work in Egypt, so I agree with you. I think it's very banking-controlled sector, right? You can't have a wallet without linking it to a bank account, you know. But it's interesting that the central bank, however, is very open-minded. They are actually really pushing fintech. We set up Egypt's domestic card scheme with EBC called MISA. And I think Egypt is taking the right steps, which is first to set up your domestic scheme, secondly, to have an instant payment scheme. Now you have an instant payment scheme. So these things are necessary before you can use AI for super fast financial services. You know.
We are one of the 3 fintechs in Egypt who actually got the license of the instant payment network. So we only have peer-to-peer in Egypt. They're moving that towards peer-to-merchant, and we're one of the 3 startups who got that. So we have 4 licenses from the central bank. If you'd asked me like 5 years ago, is this a possibility? I wouldn't have even thought about it. But now how the central bank is supporting startups for us to grow. Like I'm going back from here to a fintech summit done by the central bank in Egypt straight, so it's nice having a bit of both. There is a lot of advancement, and if anyone is thinking of like doing business in Egypt, that there's still greenfield, and there's a lot of, we're 100 million people, so I'm just one of them, and this is the announced number, let alone the people that are not even registered. So then there's a lot of financial inclusion. So there's a lot happening in Egypt, and I would say it's one of the sexiest markets at the time.
Thank you very much, Sherine. AI adaptation and technological capabilities. When companies adopt AI across their ecosystem, which types of technology capabilities do you see providing the strongest foundation to the secure access?
Yeah, well, I've been in the cybersecurity era for the last 15 years, you know, and I've explored a lot of technologies. With Okta AI, as I mentioned before, you can not only mitigate the risk, but give the user experience and not be compromised about security. So with Okta AI, you can not only mitigate the risk and give your users a better experience while keep detecting anomaly across your network and to prevent the attackers from stealing any credentials or anything like that. And I would like to maybe ask, how do you protect your identities in your companies, for your customers, or for your own? If you can elaborate about that.
I'd love to answer, but the head of tech does that.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how we do it, but for us to get regulated from the beginning, there is a lot of things that we need to pass for us to get to that.
This is exactly what we do. We verify, you know, authentications with biometric authentications to verify the user who is intended to be, and so on, with fingerprint and passwordless authentications, you know, and so on. You can also use some Okta workflows, which is an automation to automate all the processes and make it easier for your customers. With Auth0, for instance, which is the customer identity and access management, You can also make self-registrations for the users, for your customers, so it will be much more easier to them to log in to the system, banking, financials, and so on.
We definitely, so like thinking from a non-tech person, we definitely do biometric, even though the customer can just pay like the way that our payment is done versus most things in Egypt, it doesn't go through like you authenticate and you tokenize the card or whatever payment method once, and then it's saved and tokenized in the system, and then you pay by the biometric authentication versus having to go through a 3D secure every single time, which ruins the experience. So we have a bit of a balance between how do we make the experience flow and make sure it's easy on the customer to pay without having to go through many steps, but also keeping that safe and secure by using biometric authentication for sure. But I'm sure the tech team has a lot more things for data protection and identity protection.
All right.
And I think
Marius,
sorry,
Monica. Please.
I was going to say that in addition to the security layer, what's important for companies to understand is, I'm not going to repeat myself about the data infrastructure and all of that, which has to be built around security, obviously. But what's important, and I think it will become a priority in 2026, is for companies to understand whether they need AI and where they need to implement AI. It's not for everything. It's not a panacea, as I think George Agathangelu mentioned before. So an AI strategy in order to identify where the North Star is very important. And then taking a few steps back, what we do in order to get there. Step one should be a small step. Step two should be another small step that lead us towards the end goal, which might take us maybe 3 years to get to, but we cannot have a strategy that has a big vision and then, let's say, outsource it to somebody and said, please implement this vision for me, come back in 3 years with a new shiny tool. It needs to be an iterative process that has to be phased into the organization in a way that makes sense because it's a big investment.
For this, like the way we do it, we don't have an AI strategy per se, but I would say we have a company strategy altogether and the end goals, and our tech team is in-house. So we then try and look how to get to that point in the best and most secure way possible. And if AI is part of it, then it is, because I also don't like using inside the company, it's part of our culture, like the interesting words, like the big words, like AI, Fintech, like there's a few words, like if you throw them in, buzzwords, exactly, then it's, I always tell the team, like AI is part of how we're doing business. We're not an AI as an umbrella. It's part of how we do the business. So if you find AI even in marketing, for example, in writing content, so it can be as easy as that. Do we need to hire a copywriter, or can we find tools? Do we need to get 10 designers in the company, or can we live with one and use Canva? So it's just a part of how do we get to that point in the best and most efficient and cheapest way possible, because we're a startup.
And
so
secured.
And the question shouldn't be where to implement AI. It should be, what is my pain point, and can I solve it with AI? Yes.
Marius, since you represent one of the tech giants today, could you give us some more information how the Google secure access to the AI tools for the employees, for the company?
Unfortunately, I cannot share this piece of information. I'm not even skillful on this specific area. But what I can say for sure is that for users, Google is like North Star of Google is to keep privacy of users to the highest level. And that's why actually Google was not one of the fastest growing AI tools companies in the last few years. So we saw that ChatGPT was the first one to come along. And then Google took some years in order to come up with the best AI tool. And by the way, during the last, like 2 weeks ago, Google released Gemini 3, which is by far the best generative AI tool, so feel free to go and check it. It's insane. But yes, this is what I can say, that Google always tries to take each step in a way that user data will be secured.
Thank you. So we are coming to the last question of our panel discussion, investment priorities. If you had to prioritize a single area of AI investment for 2026, operational decision automation, risk intelligence, or customer experience, which would you choose and why? Samee, since you are a CEO and you are leading the company.
I mean, I think for our clients, we're a consulting company. For our clients, let's take the example of merchants, right? So there's a lot of discussion about AI moving from generative AI to agentic so from online commerce to agentic commerce, right? And it's very early days. We don't know what's going to happen. And I think somebody showed a slide up in one of the earlier sessions that Google and Shopify are banning bots because they're saying that these AI agents are actually making the site more vulnerable to fraud. So that would happen. But I think in general, for merchants, that's what we're telling our clients, need to make their websites or whatever they have, which is customer interactive APIs and stuff, more agent-friendly. So you could have human-to-agent connection. You could have agent-to-agent connection. And that's where you need to make sure that you are geared up to deal with agents. And if there's a bad human behind a good agent, you should be able to tell that. And if there's a good agent, good human being, and they need to look at what you have to offer, it may not be a website, but they need to know what you offer. And then you need to tell the agent very clearly what you offer so that they can take it back and say, okay, how can I use that one? That's where I would put my money.
I 1000% agree on that. You mentioned the chatbots example in the first question. Who among us wants to chat with a chatbot? 0 persons I know want to chat with a machine. Why? Because we are human. However, the future is not a chatbot that will be used for human-to-machine communication. It's most probably an AI agent communicating with another AI agent. And this is the vision we should have in mind, that we are moving towards agentic communication. And that's why proper data is important, because the machine has to make sense of what it has in the back end in order to communicate it to another machine, so that other machine can make a decision and proceed with an action based on predefined criteria. So in the future, even marketing, I think there's a very interesting panel tomorrow close to lunchtime about marketing and AI. In the future, the human experience with websites and social media will not be relevant. It will not affect the purchasing decisions, because everything will be built around agents understanding what is underneath. So the coding behind all of these websites and all of this marketing communication or whatnot will be built for machines to understand, and not humans to like the color, the banner, and all of these nice images.
Depends on regulations, how on that point of the future. Like in China today, the companies are proactively promoting the natural lifestyle balance, sport, and different activities. So if our government will turn to this area, we will keep this key and important thing. Let's hope so. Thank you to all our speakers for the sharp insights and practical perspectives. What we heard today is clear. AI is reshaping financial services, but its impact depends on the strategy, governance, security, and the people, just as much as the technology itself. For fintech leaders, the takeaways are simple. Focus on the real value, build responsibility, and prepare both your organization and your workforce for what AI makes possible. Thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of Cyprus Fintech 2025.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Thank you.